In a split second, you make a decision about who's attractive and who's not. Imagine yourself sitting in a restaurant and in walks someone of the same or other sex. By the time I finished the first sentence of this lecture, you determined if they were good looking or unattractive. That's pretty fast as opposed to ugly fast. All intimate relationships start with some kind of attraction, and thus is worth exploring some factors that subtly influence how we evaluate others. In this lecture, we will define attraction, discuss how proximity affects attraction, discuss universal standards of beauty across men and women, and we'll dispel some myths along the way. Buckle up and let's get into it. People are attracted to people whose presence is rewarding to them. I know it's common parlance for people to describe that it was an ineffable or indescribable chemistry that brought them together. However, the reality is that we like people that provide us with some type of direct or indirect reward. Direct rewards refer to the evident pleasures people provide us. Indirect rewards benefits partners without deliberately doing so. If Tessa Mae Thompson started showering me with affection and approval by talking to me, hypothetically, while I'm at a Chick-fil-A, it would be in my best interest to leave Chick-fil-A. My wife knows I have a crush on her, and given that I want to stay with my darling wife, I better head out. Now, understand, the more direct rewards an individual provide us, the more attracted we are to them. So Tessa Mae Thompson's attention by way of dialogue would be a direct reward for me. An indirect reward could be in the form of benefits my children would receive if I were to be in a romantic encounter with Tessa Mae. Maybe they will have a gift for gab, good looks, acting abilities, etc. So, what direct and indirect rewards do your relationships provide? Humans have a tendency to be attracted to individuals that live in close proximity to them, and relationships tend to be more rewarding when you can hear voices, see smiles, and hold hands. Most of our friendships and interactions with people originated in settings where they were immediately available. So, with that in mind, as you plan where you'll go to graduate school or where you'll start your ideal career, you may want to consider that you're taking steps towards a population that you'll build relationships with in an intimate sense. In research, that's my way of saying mere exposure to someone usually increases your liking for a person. Now, it should be mentioned that familiarity has its limits, and I want to talk about this in two different settings: face to face interactions and online interactions. Sometimes, as we gain information about a person, we may find them to be obnoxious, disagreeable, and inept. An example of this could be someone that's dealing with a loud party all night neighbor. With that said, friends are likely in close proximity to us, and most of the people we dislike are close by as well. So let's move on and talk about online relationships. With online relationships, close proximity can be disadvantageous when people come in contact for the first time. A curated profile melts away into a revelatory reality when someone finds out who their partner actually is versus who they think they are. As a result, attraction tends to decline. Overall, proximity helps us get those direct and indirect benefits I was talking about earlier, and distance could be extremely costly given the hurdles one has to navigate. For example, traveling, technology issues, etc., in order to receive those rewards. I'm sure you're aware that most cultures consider that beautiful, pretty, or gorgeous looking people are internally good people, but on this slide I want to explore the following. What is pretty? What is good looking? Across ethnic groups, age ranges, including babies, and sex, women are more attractive if they have baby face features, prominent cheekbones, narrow cheeks, and a broad smile. Men who have strong jawlines and broad foreheads, think George Clooney or Michael B. Jordan, are attractive, and men who are more baby faced with big eyes, small nose, small chin, full lips, think Tobey Maguire, are thought to be attractive as well. Facial symmetry is important in attractiveness. Assessing one's body in determining attraction is important as well. Men find women's shape most alluring when they are of normal weight with a waist to hip ratio of 0.7, which essentially means that the waist is 30% smaller than the hips. You guessed it, the hourglass. Norms can differ across ethnic groups, with some blacks and Latino individuals being more accepting of extra weight, so it's important to keep that in mind as well. However, males' bodies are most attractive when their waists are only slightly narrower than their hips, with a waist to hip ratio of 0.9, or their waist is 10% smaller than their hips. Shoulder to hip ratio should clock in around 1.2, which highlights how broad shoulders need to be, as well as how important muscles are. So let's spend some time talking about some other factors related to attraction. As far as heterosexual relationships, women tend to want their men taller than them. A guy who's short, for example, 5 foot 4 inches, may have to make a couple hundred thousand more than a taller man to be interesting to certain women. Smell matters more to women than to men, and apparently symmetrical and attractive people smell better than asymmetrical individuals, according to research. Heterosexual men don't like the smell of gay men's garments, and relationship research supports that. Women tend to like men with smoother and less hair on scalp and chest, and men prefer women with long hair for some interesting reasons. Some of these reasons include the belief that they'll be less likely to be married or engaged, and beliefs about having sex on the first date. Women tend to like smart guys. So, guys, if you're trying to impress a lady, you may want to start flexing that vocabulary. You may want to flex the vocabulary and wear red. The color red is powerful. Both sexes tend to be more receptive to dating or an interaction when red is being worn by either sex. Finally, there's some compelling research out there that highlights that the type of guy a woman is attracted to may vary based on times during the month when she is fertile. Research highlights that a woman wears more cosmetics, dresses more provocatively, is more alluring to men in terms of voice and scent and look, and prefers masculine, rugged features on a male when she is fertile. Other times around that ovulation period, women may be more varied in who they are attracted to. So overall, looks matter. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. In the first few minutes of a novel encounter, we are observing physical appearances and associating them with traits, as speed dating research confirms. How does attraction affect our interactions with others? Well, there's no relationship between beauty of women and their interactions, and it seems that physical attraction of men has a bigger effect on the men's or male social lives than women, and that unattractive men have fewer interactions of any sorts with fewer women. Overall, gorgeous people tend to have more interactions and dates with others, but there are drawbacks in that they tend to be less trusting of others. If you're gorgeous and receiving a job promotion or critical review of your work, how do you know it's based on your merit and not because a person is brown nosing you or simply being ingratiating? Ah, the woes of fine people. Wow, in such a short window of time, we've talked about a lot. I'll end by crushing this notion of opposites attract. Research simply doesn't support this idea. We like individuals that are similar to us. We also like individuals that complement us. In other words, if we're a dreamer and we conjure up a big vacation, then we may fall in love with someone who is logistical and detail oriented, especially if we're not. Perceived similarity matters. You ever met a couple that couldn't appear to be any more opposite? I know I have. I've met couples with different interests and personalities and preferences and hobbies, etc. From the outside looking in, you may be tempted to say that they won't last because they're so different. Well, it could be that they don't perceive the differences like you do. In fact, they may perceive themselves to be very similar along the lines of what matters to them. Couple that with individuals attracted to what they want to become and the fact that the similarity may decrease over time as mutuality is sought, and you begin to see how complex attraction really is. Listen, I hope I've enriched you in some way during this lecture. Feel free to take a deeper dive into peer reviewed literature, get more details on attraction and relationships. Take care.